creative friends. My name is Joey Balestrieri. Welcome to my work table. I don't know how these things happen, but I actually started out today to make a video on a multi-strand and chain necklace from this month's Dollar Bead Club. It's the August 2024 box, and that's what I was actually sitting here designing. But there were some really beautiful beads in that box, the dollar bead box and the dollar bead bag. I get both of them. And so I'm actually going to set this aside because, as I said, I don't know how these things happen, but I ended up working on earrings instead. And so the first earring is super simple. This is using the arabesque bead that was in the dollar bead box this month. It is a beautiful check glass bead with several finishes on it. It's got a beige glass underneath with the Picasso wash on the edges and then a turquoise wash that shows off that arabesque like sculpting that's in the bead. And there were these gorgeous check glass pearls, and I just added in from my stash these little check glass rondelles that are super tiny. They're like 2 millimeter, and so that is my simple little earring that started out. I'm also mixing in, let me show you on the one that's not wrapped, I'm also mixing in some solid brass and plated and e-coated findings from Purity Beads. I can link that in the description box below if you're not familiar. They are really high quality metal for jewelry makers. So I have like a tiny little disc spacer, and even my ball head pin that I'm using is that same coated. It's solid brass, and then it's electroplated with the gold and then the e-coating so that it doesn't tarnish. And I am using a 2.5 inch head pin here so that I would have space to do a wire wrap. And the reason I'm doing that on this pair of earrings is because of this gorgeous arabesque bead. I want it to stay facing forward. And if you notice, I don't have an ear wire on this earring. And if you've been on my channel before, you don't even need me to tell you why, because it's my standard operating procedure. But I'm just going to show you quickly how I wire wrap an earring. I'm going to take my bent chain nose pliers and grab my head pin right at the top of the last bead on my stack and give that a 90-degree bend. And then I'm going to reach for my round nose pliers and stay kind of down near the tip. I don't need a super big loop, so these are cone shaped. So if you stay closer to the tip, you get a smaller loop, and if you place your wire up here, you'll get a larger loop. So I'm always right about there. And then I'm just going to bring that wire over the top of the top barrel. So it looks like that. And now that it's in my way in order to finish wrapping. So I'm going to rotate so that now the top barrel is the bottom barrel. And I'm going to continue to get a good grip, to have a good grip here. And I'm going to continue to pull that wire around. Now I can see that my loop is offset. It's not lined up. So I'm just going to roll my wrist back. And before I let go, just make those adjustments so that I have a really perfectly straight lined up loop. Let me go a bit more. Whoops. Okay, and now when I take my round nose pliers away, I have a perfectly round loop and it's centered. Now these are still going around, so I am going to secure them with my wraps. So I'm just going to lock that into place and just go around lining up my wraps. You can always do a messy wrap if you like that look, but for me, I really prefer a nice neat wrap. I'm going to get my pliers to help me so I don't hurt my fingers. And I didn't cut very much off of this head pin. I just wrapped, and now I'm going to just line everything up and really gently, and I won't lie, I'm doing this slowly for newer people, but I won't lie, you really have to be careful doing this because I have, this tiny little check glass bead at the top, and I'm just trying to push that wire in, which I have done. But now, I don't know if you can tell, but now this is secure in the facing forward position, and that's what I wanted. Sometimes I will do simple loops, and you'll see in the 3 other designs we're going to do that sometimes a simple loop is just perfect. the beads can go 360 degrees around, but if you have a bead that you want it to stay facing forward, that's what I do. I put a nice wire wrapped loop, and that is ready. And then I love my gold filled lever back interchangeable ear wires. If you haven't seen them before, they have a little like open space right there, and that's where you thread your drops on, and then you put it in your ear and snap it closed. And so I have this beautiful little drop that dangles. It's elegant, it's beautiful, and I'm putting high quality metal in my ears because this is gold filled so it doesn't tarnish. And I have 3 or 4 of these in my jewelry wardrobe, and I have an entire tray. So as I get in my boxes, because I get so many bead boxes every month, I love my beads, and as I have fun making new drops, I don't need an ear wire every single time, and so I really love doing that. So when you see me making earrings with no ear wires, that is why. And honestly, I have given these to pretty much every friend that I have. And so I make drops for them and just give them the drops without an ear wire, and they can interchange theirs as well. And then if I'm tired of something, or one of my friends is tired of something, we can swap them out, and we all have our own ear wires, but we can, trade out our drops. So it is a really fun way to make earrings. So that first little pair is done. And then the next pair is just items from my stash and simple loops. Again, I took one of those ball head pins, and as you can see, no ear wire, because I can do that same thing. Just thread this little drop on, and I have this beautiful dangling. I just love it. I'll show you what I did. I have one that's unstacked, but on this one, I also have, I can do that one that way, but I also have this beautiful pair of ear wires from Bead Box Bargains. It's the sister site to Bargain Bead Box. I know for newer people that's confusing. It took me a while to even figure it out. But sometimes I do go ahead, if I have a really pretty ear wire, I will go ahead and, attach it to an ear wire. So on this one, I was thinking that I might attach it. I might need to open that a bit more, open one of those loops. But on this one, that's what I was thinking, is I might go ahead and attach it. But that's the cool thing about having the interchangeable ear wires. You can decide if you want to put a permanent ear wire on it, and I had these really pretty ones, or if you want to just use your interchangeable ones. So on this one, I took only a 2-inch head pin, also from Purity Beads. And I have like this little disc spacer. I have a flat disc, and then this little sort of lantern or rondelle shaped spacer. And I really love their items that have this brushed gold finish on it, and all of it is anti-tarnish. And then these are just from my stash, these little sparkling clay beads. And I did a double, let me remove this so you can see. I did a double stack of bead caps on this one, just for dimension and just for that layering and intriguing look. This is just an enamel bead cap, and I think I got these from Amazon. In the description box of the video, I'll link anything that I know where I got it. But like literally, I started out to make a necklace, and then I just wanted to play with some of my supplies, and I ended up with 4 earrings designed. So it's one of those days. So I'm just going to do that little stack, and then for me, you can do your simple loops with your pliers, but for me, I like to use my 1-step looper, and I'm using the smallest of the 3 sizes that it comes in. It's the 1.5 millimeter, and that is what I used on this. So if you can see, it makes this tiny little loop, which easily goes on the interchangeable ear wires or any ear wire. And this is only a 2-inch ball head pin, so it's not a super long one, but I didn't want to waste these high quality metals. So this one didn't quite go through the guide hole in the back of the tool, but that's okay. I'm just going to close it gently. I'm only giving myself control just to see that my head pin is under that mandrel, and that I have a little bit of space here. I usually back this out like 1 millimeter or so that I don't put any excess pressure on my stack of beads. That was a little bit too much. And then I am just going to I am going to very gently, I see people popping this closed, but I don't do it that way. I get a good grip here and I just gently close it, and I'm watching it make that nice fresh cut. So you can skip that step with your pliers, and I can also see that I'm not putting any pressure on my beads. If I were, I wouldn't continue to close because I don't want to break my little tiny check glass rondelle or damage any of my beads. And then I can slowly close the loop, and before the jaw is closed all the way, I'm just going to pull this down. And now I'm doing the same thing I did with my wrapped loop. I have just centered that simple loop on the head pin and on the stack, and then I can continue to close it the rest of the way. And you know, I get this perfect, like when I take it out, I have this perfect loop. And if you're making earrings, it's nice because that loop is consistent with everything else. At least for me, when I do them with my pliers, they don't all come out exactly the same, but with that one step looper, they do. And sometimes, I tend to go in and fuss with things and tidy up my loops and even open and close my pliers just to work harden. But that little drop is done, and that's my second pair of earrings, just that fast. And I have to decide if I want to attach them to these little rhinestone gold-plated ear wires, or I can just, you know, easily, I really love doing this. I have a few of these, and I'll just go in my tray each day and choose what I'm going to wear and do it that way. So my second pair is done, and now my third pair is also just from my stash. I had these boho beads, and I don't remember where I got them. They might be a Jesse James bead item, and this is probably the most difficult of the 4 pairs because I did do a spiral and made my own head pin, but it's really not that difficult. So I'm going to go really slow. I'm also just using, let me pull in my supplies. I'm also just using 20 gauge wire, so it's not real hard on the hands and it's not difficult to turn. And then I have another one of those beads, and then let me gather up my little 2mm pearls. I get my pearls, almost all of my pearls, from Potomac Beads. I can put a link in the description box below if you are not familiar. They make the most beautiful glass pearls. They're called Potomac pearls. I also love the check glass ones that are available on Dollar Bead Club, but these little 2mm ones did come from Potomac pearls, and I just love theirs. So for this earring, I'm going to start out with a small little spiral. And you know, my first one was super easy because I literally just made the spiral, but I do want to try to like match the center and kind of match the spiral that I've already done since it is earrings. And I'm going to come in again with my bent chain nose pliers and get a hold of the loop that I just made. And I'm just going to, in small increments, gently push that wire against my forefinger. And I'm going to try to go around, again, like I said, the same amount of turns that I did on my first earring. And so far, it's looking pretty good. I mean, you can always pause. And I have to say, if you're newer to jewelry or newer to wire working, I have learned that trying to go too fast when you are working with wire does not yield the best results. I just find that if I take the time to warm and straighten my wire, and if I do my turns and my bends with my pliers more slowly, I get a much better result and I'm not as frustrated. So let's see, that looks really good to me. I'm going to do like another half a turn. I feel like they match pretty well. And I like to mirror my earrings, although it doesn't really matter on these because they're going to kind of spin around. But I'm going to take a hold of the spiral that I just made, and right where I stopped spiraling, get the wire and just bend it straight up. Just like that. Make sure it's nice and straight. So I have just created my own spiral head pin. And then for this design, I threaded on one of these 2mm glass pearls and then my little boho bead. And let's see, what did I do? Then another pearl. And then this is really cool. Let me show you what these are. This is a little cylinder bead that is kind of twisted. It almost looks like it's diamond cut. Now this wire is from is from Softflex company, and it does have an anti-tarnish coating, but I just thought that was really pretty to give some sparkle and some bling to my earrings. So let me show you what that is. These are bugle beads. They're Miyuki, and they are twisted and silver lined, and the glass on the outside is the gold. So it's a 2x6 millimeter, and I just thought that was beautiful. Look at the finished one. I don't know if the camera is rendering how it catches the light and flashes in the light. So as an earring that's going to dangle, that just lights up your face. And I picked these up at a bead shop here in my city, but I am pretty sure Potomac Beads has at least something similar. So all I did is created a downward rod, like a little pendulum, just putting a pearl in between each one of those bugle beads, just to mimic the pearls in the boho bead that I had. And now I am going to do the same thing and just do another wire wrapped loop the same way that I showed you. And I want my wire wrapped loop to be going, you know, this way. I want my spiral to be facing forward and my wire wrapped loop to be going in the same direction, because that's the way it will sit facing forward on the ear wire. So I'm just going to grab the wire right at the top of my pearl, and as you can see, I'll be bending the wire in the same direction that I did the spiral. So just a 90-degree bend, and then the same thing, tip of my round nose pliers, bring that wire over the top barrel, rotate it out of my way, continue it around, and now I have my loop, and I'm just going to roll my wrist back and just make sure everything is lined up. And now when I take the pliers away, I have a really good loop. And I'm going to grab it with my bent chain nose pliers and just wrap right down to my pearl. You could do a simple loop on this design, but then your spiral would not always be facing forward on the earring. So I opted to wire wrap so that I could do that same thing that I did with the arabesque bead and just make it stay facing forward. And just trim away the excess, make sure nothing is sharp. And this is a little glass pearl, and you do want to be careful. This is the same as the first design. You really have to be careful tucking, because these are glass tubes as well. So if you're too aggressive, you can break your stack. But my little earring, my third design, just that quickly is done. I mean, that's what happened to me this morning. I started playing and stacking my beads, and the next thing I know, I had 4 pairs of really cool earrings finished, and I just love them. I mean, I will wear all of these. This is my style. Statement jewelry is really in for 2024, like something bold in your ear, but I'm not a fan of big chunky jewelry, so I do my statement pieces in a little bit played down way. So I'm still making a statement, but I don't have this giant thing in my ear. So I am loving my earrings. And the last earring is so cool. This one is using a little scrap of chain that I had from Purity Beads, and it's in an antique brass finish, but it matched the antique brass on these little beaded boho beads that I had in my stash. And I just did a stack of discs here to really change the shape of this boho bead, and now it kind of looks like a lantern. And then this little chain is going to go right over my interchangeable ear wire and dangle. I know it's not a good camera angle for you, but it will dangle like that on a chain and just really kind of look like a lantern. And I just wanted to share something with you. Let me pull in my other earring. This is another one of those 2-inch ball head pins, and I just wanted to share something with you. Look at the shape of this bead when it's just by itself. It's beautiful. It's like a little barrel. But when you stack discs, like this is a mermaid glass disc spacer. It's a little check glass disc bead, and it's two-tone. It's like the mermaid glass on one side, and then it has a vitriol finish on the other. So I stacked it so that the turquoise mermaid glass is up, and then a large disc spacer, a little small disc spacer, and then a little check glass rondelle. And then I did the same thing on the top of the bead, and look how it completely changes the shape of what the bead looked like standing alone. So that's what happened to me this morning. I started playing with my beads, and just the ones I had left over from the different boxes this month, and just playing with the stacks, and that is just gorgeous. And so I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to use my one-step looper, super simple. This time I think my head pin will go through the guide hole in the back. So just like that, just feed it through, and I'm going to close gently. It's under the mandrel, and then I'm going to gently close the tool, take away what it cuts. I can see that I'm not putting any pressure on my stack of beads. I don't close it all the way until I pull my stack of beads down. Then I finish closing, and now I can see that my loop is centered on my design, and my next earring, for all intents and purposes, is done. I just have to add it to my little scrap of chain. And I just was so thrilled because this chain is beautiful. It's oval link, and it's embossed on both sides, and it also has that anti-tarnish coating, and I just thought it was so beautiful, and it matched so well. And then I did this pop of the brighter gold in between. So this like super simple pair of earrings is done. And so if you are a beginner, I think these are totally beginner friendly and fun and fast. It's instant gratification. I just absolutely love the way they turned out. It's stunning, it's wearable, and they're exotic on top of that. I mean, I feel like if I was in a boutique on a trip somewhere, I feel like this is the kind of thing that I would see and buy and bring back from my trip. But I have made my own exotic earrings, and on top of that, I only needed one pair of ear wires. But as I said, if you find really pretty ones, you can attach them permanently to anything. But it's so fun to make earrings this way and not need an ear wire every single time. So I will do one more thing before I consider this done. I use this Permalac anti-tarnish coating. Now I don't need it for the things that are e-coated, this chain, my discs, these ball head pins. I don't need it for that. This is brass. I'm going to let that be that color. But I usually on these type of bead caps will brush my anti-tarnish coating over that, and I will even brush over my little cylinder cloisonne beads here, just to make sure that the gold in those stays nice and bright. And I'll show you how easy it is. I should have a little piece of paper. In fact, let me take my little dollar bead club list just so I don't mess up my beading mat. And all I do is just brush it on. It's a semi-gloss. It doesn't hurt anything. If you accidentally brush one of your beads, you don't notice it at all. It dries completely clear. And I'll just get that brush in there and just make sure that anything that's shiny is coated so that it stays shiny. And as I said, I'll show you, you can brush it over a bead like this cloisonne bead, and it just protects the metal and keeps it shiny, protects the plating. So anything that might rub off or turn dark, that won't happen. And you can even use your pliers to hold your little earring. Again, these are e-coated for anti-tarnish, so I don't need to do it on those. And then it dries super quick. The other thing that I'll do on this one, my wire is anti-tarnish, but I will brush my boho bead, because these boho beads are made with just fashion jewelry or like base metal, you know, findings. And so even that little circle that's around the pearls, I'm just going to give this whole earring a little coat, and you won't see it on the part that's not metal either. And it does dry really fast. I've tried other anti-tarnish brush-on coatings before, and there's one called Eterna. I can't remember Eterna. Something that's from Amazon, and it just took forever to dry. And I just think this does such a good job. So this is from Potomac Beads. I can put a link in the, you don't need it on the anti-tarnish wire, but I'm going to do it. You can brush it over everything. So I'll put a link in the description box for this Permalac coating, also for the gold filled interchangeable ear wires. Look, it's already dry, just that fast. So I'll put a link to everything that I know where I got it in the description box below, and you know, check them out. This is kind of a conglomeration of several of the boxes that I get every month, and I just was playing and decided to share these designs with all of you. So I hope you got a little inspiration, or picked up a technique or two, or maybe a new item that you didn't know about or aren't using. And I thank you so much for watching. If you're not subscribed to my channel, it would be a really lovely way to support my work. It doesn't cost you anything or obligate you to anything, but it really helps the algorithm of YouTube to know that I'm doing a good job. And tap the bell notification, and a thumbs up too is really appreciated. So I thank you so much for watching. I hope everyone is having a great week and you're all safe and well and having fun on your beading mats. Ciao, jewelry making friends.